Right, so now we've looked at how we can conserve. So remember 2 C's, 3 D's, 4 E's, and just learn them. Now we've done that, we can look at the importance of conservation. So we've got 3 things here. Once again, thank you, Mrs. Brown's blogs. Sorry, Mrs. Brown. Mrs. Miller's blogs. She's put here the economic, social, and ethical factors of why we should conserve. So let's look at economic first. To provide resources that humans need, such as rainforest species, provide drugs, clothes, and food, which are traded. So some points I've put down as well for economic. We have medicine, which is sort of spoken about here. If you maintain biodiversity, we're constantly finding new species which have new benefits to us. So new plants such like poppy seeds were found to have morphine, which was a medicine we use as a painkiller. I don't know too many plants that have been used, but you can look at some examples yourself. There must be thousands. Okay, we keep discovering new natural properties of plants and animals, defense mechanisms against diseases that are found in these biodiverse habitats. And if we destroy them, if we don't conserve them, then we can lose those resources. Okay, we also have natural control agents. So if we destroy environments, natural predators, natural pest killers like antiparasitic wasps, if we destroy their habitat, they no longer survive, and we can have parasites just take over. Also have this issue of droughts and floods. So if we cut down rainforests, this is spoken about in a lot more detail in another chapter, then the surface soil is exposed. The trees are no longer there to soak up the water. So water builds up on this soil, it rushes down, carries all the soil nutrients with it, so we lose the soil nutrients, and then we can see floods and droughts be caused by just simply by lack of conservation. And finally, economic benefit is tourism over here. So here we can see a tourist trying to bird spot, and he doesn't realise he's got a bird looking straight at him, inches from him there. We have tourists attracted to economic site, to ecosystems, so natural, aesthetically pleasing environments. People like to go and visit them, and it brings in money. Okay, then we have social benefits. So many ecosystems enjoyed for activities like bird watching, so that's bringing in tourism. They should be conserved for the enjoyment. So tourism's good for enjoyment of our future generations, and it also has economic benefit. And ethical, so organisms have a right to exist, and we have a moral responsibility to future generations. So your ethical views are your own, but I think most people would agree that it wouldn't be a great world to live in if we killed everything and humans were the prime race. Some people would argue that humans do not have the right to kill other animals. We should be stewards and protect animals. Okay. Then we've got ecosystem management. So this is my own drawn diagram. As you can see, it is poor. But first of all, let's look at coppicing. So coppicing is when you cut a tree near the base of the stem, so a young tree, and then it grows into lots of lateral stems. So here we've got a big tree, we cut it there, new buds grow, and we form a mature coppice at the end here. Okay. So pollarding is doing the exact same thing, but you cut the tree higher up, and that is for areas where you've got like deers and stuff that eat the newly formed buds, because if they eat the buds, it will not grow, it will just die. Okay, so pollarding is cutting the tree out of the primary consumer's reach, and it grows into new pretty much the same as coppicing, but the new buds form higher up in the tree, and you keep that bark at the bottom. Okay, then we've got rotational coppicing. So we divide an area of land into segments. Okay, so here I've divided this piece of land into 4. Over here in green we've got some fully grown plants, so let's just imagine this area to be full of plants like this. Then we coppice that land, so we cut all those down to this size. Then the next year after that they'll start growing, they'll form like wood. We're not really seeing the branches yet, so they'll be at this sort of stage. And then there'll be the next year after that, they're going to grow to like this, and then eventually they'll be fully grown, okay? And then we can coppice them again. So rotational coppicing is like coppicing each segment of land each year. So when it gets fully grown, then you coppice it, it goes back to stage 1, and then this bit will be fully grown, okay? And then you coppice that, and the year after that this bit will be fully grown. Eventually this will get fully grown again. So you just rotationally, you go round and coppice it, let the rest of the crops grow. We have modern sustainable forestry, so we like to keep things in their optimal conditions. So we manage pests and disease. Selective cutting, so we only cut the trees down that have high economic value. So we don't cut small trees down that aren't going to give us much benefit. We let the small trees grow, cut down the really large ones with good economic value. They run on a tree for tree basis, so you cut one tree down, you plant another tree. Using the many ways you can plant a tree, either from seeds or through cloning, stuff like that. And finally we have an idea of maintaining the ecosystem. So you want it to be sustainable. So sustainable forestry is a big step forward from let's cut down this whole field of trees. Yes, it's going to get us loads of money this year, and then you realise you've no longer got that resource. It's completely gone. Okay, let's look at fisheries now. So fisheries are a sustainable way of harvesting fish. Okay, so it's done pretty much ex situ. You grow the fish in controlled conditions, not in the natural environment, and you harvest them there, and that's much more sustainable. But obviously we can't use that as our only source of fish, but the Marine Stewardship Council have put in some guidelines on how to fish in the natural environment, and there's some rules set down. So you can only fish populations in excess of the carrying capacity. So overpopulated fish, it is fine to fish them. You should not damage their habitats. You shouldn't use methods like sweep netting, which can break coral reefs. And if you do overfish by accident, you should always reduce the amount of fishing. And this just conserves the amount of fish we have in our habitat, okay? Finally, we've got our 6 regions. So I've got 3 on this slide and 3 on the other slide. We've got the Terai region, Galapagos Islands, Masai Mara, Antarctic, Lake District and Snowdonia National Park. If you are doing OCR A-level biology, which I'm guessing 99% of my probably 4 viewers are, because the other one is my mum, you need to know these 6 examples. So you can do your own research about them. I'm not going to spend too long on them because it's just a matter of reading the book and learning them. So first of all, we will look at the Terai region. So the Terai region is in south of Nepal. We've got grassy marshlands, savanna and forests. It's densely populated and it's full of endangered species. So here we've got the Bengal tiger. There also has rhinoceroses, and it contains many national parks. So there was danger of ruining this beautiful Terai region with lots of biodiversity through three things really. So we had agriculture expansion. I might write this down. Agriculture. We also had overexploitation of forests. So I'm just going to put overexploitation. And we finally had replacement of natural crops with modern crops. So sort of looking back at agriculture, you can sort of call this monoculture. So one type of crop, it reduces our biodiversity and it's not good for the environment. So human impact was destroying the Terai region. There was a local dependence on the region for fuel, animal feed, building materials, tools and medicines. So the WWF intervened with the Nepalese government. They introduced forestry initiatives, forest corridors between national parks were put in. They counteracted poaching, and they gave the Terai people wood-efficient stoves to reduce the demand for firewood. Okay, so they want to conserve that environment, and it is working now. Okay. Secondly, on here we're going to look at the Masai Mara, which is at the bottom. So in the Masai Mara, similarly, we've got high poverty and abundant wildlife, which attracts tourism. The Masai took individual title over small portions of land, which triggered an influx of agriculture, limiting wildlife to small islands. The density of the wildlife decreased by 5%, while sheep and goat density increased. So this was a problem. The Masai people sort of took over. They weren't conserving it, and wildlife conservation schemes came in, revenue proportional to the area of land set aside for conservation. So the more area they conserve, the more money they get. They can use some of their own area for agriculture, so they can keep goats and stuff. But if they keep a large area, they get more money from wildlife conservation schemes. Okay, so it allows tourism to the conservation areas. That brings in economic benefit, and it also allowed benefit for the Maasai people, so they could still keep their agriculture, etc. Okay, then we've got our Galapagos Islands, which had 50% vertebrate and 25% plant species endangered. People moved over to the islands. Water, energy and sanitation service demands. There was waste and pollution, so everything humans do on a day-to-day basis. There was increased oil demands from the islands. Eventually, in 2001, they had an oil spill. They introduced agriculture. They introduced goats, which destroyed habitats for these giant tortoises native to the island. They overfished. They causing depletion of sea cucumber. They killed sharks, so depletion of sharks now. They introduced unnative species such as goats, which outcompeted other species for their habitats, grazing, trampling, soil erosion, etc. So then there was these Charles Darwin Research Institution, which culled goats. They educated again on sustainable management. They introduced strategies of natural control of aphids through ladybird introduction, resource management, no-take zones. So the islands have now become better conserved. Okay. Then we've got the Antarctic. So three things to look at here. First is krill, so this is a krill. They're prey for whales, seals, penguins, albatrosses, and squid. Harvesting of krill made it hard for predators to find sufficient krill. Trigger level catch size in particular areas was introduced to avoid catastrophic effect on predators. We also had albatrosses and petrels. They're affected by hunting and pollution, habitat structure, and non-native predator introduction. Birds eat prey caught on hooks and swallow the hooks and die. So fishing methods were killing birds. So they now introduce weighted lines and bird scaring lines. So birds don't try and eat the fish caught on hooks, okay? Then they have protected areas. So the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary made it illegal to hunt and kill whales in 90% of their feeding grounds, okay? So 90% of the Earth's whales are protected thanks to that. Let's look at the Lake District, and I think this might have been where the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows could have been filmed. That might be another limestone region. So there was a removal of invasive species, legal protection of limestone pavements in which herbs grow, allowing rare butterflies to thrive. Farmers are paid to maintain hay meadows which support rich diversity in flowers and grasses. They burn strips of heathland, promoting new shoot growth, maintaining biodiversity. They manage meres, which are nutrient-poor, waterlogged ecosystems. They provide a breeding ground for moorland birds by naturally controlling water levels and controlling grazing. They made maintain paths to prevent walkers disrupting rare resting birds on cliffs / rocking scree. Okay, so they've introduced paths for walkers rather than, it was just during that, didn't I? Rather than just allowing the walkers to walk all over the landscape and destroy habitats. Finally, we've got Snowdonia National Park. So workers daily clear rubbish, blocking gutters. People visit these. It's a big tourist location, and tourists leave all sort of rubbish behind when they visit it. They reduce sheep and goat grazing. They have hedges to preserve ancient woodland. Drainage ditches blocked with hay. So farmers put drainage ditches in there, cause flooding of moorland bogs instead. So they've filled these ditches with hay. They've cut down conifers to prevent soil from drying out, and they've controlled burning of heather to reduce accidental fires. So accidental heather fires can damage peat soil, which is highly nutritious and allows rare plant species to grow on it, which they want to conserve. Controlled burning of this heather prevents accidental fires from breaking out and destroying large areas of peat. Okay, so that was 6.6. My story is about to run out, so I'll leave it there. Thank you.